There's a difference between my personality and my attitude. My personality is who I am. My attitude is contingent on how you treat me.
Welcome back to another episode of Ways. My name is Mohammed,
I'm Osama.
and this is the Ways podcast. Today's
The realest
topic,
podcast.
the realest podcast for sure. And today's podcast is about misconceptions, particularly what do you do when you are prescribed and even defined as a person who has a set of characteristics that's not even close to who you are, but who knows, due to an isolated event, circumstance or situation, people ordain you to be something that you are really not. And it's one of those things like, how do you navigate, how do you maneuver, and what do you do to come out of that as a better person? And I think the easiest way to make sense of all of this, it's that Kanye West once upon a time had a line. He said that everything I'm not made me everything I am. So most things that people thought him to be, and having to take on that, eventually, with that growth, persistence, and motivation, led him to become the individual that he was. Not talking about right now at the moment, because obviously there's always a different version of Kanye every 5 years. But that line always stuck out to me. And that's why I wanted to ask Osama, is there misconceptions or ideas that people have about you that is not true? Like when people think about you, whether in the work setting or personal setting, they be like, hey, this is who Osama is, and don't take no other word for it.
I think one misconception is people think in a personal level, is people think that I'm rude because I'm always quiet or I'm always like silent. But a lot of the time, I'm just like I'm observing and I'm just like I think now I do like more listening. But to add on to that, I've said this before. The quote earlier on in our podcast where I said, there's a difference between my personality and my attitude. My personality is who I am. My attitude is contingent on how you treat me. So I think a lot of people think I'm rude because they think they're allowed to say something to me and people can get a good laugh out of it. But as soon as I respond, that they think, oh, Osama's rude. So then this misconception of me being rude to like a small amount of people will be like, oh, Osama's this. Oh, not really, because I'm like, majority of people know how amazing I am, and if you know me personally, like I'm always there for people, never said no. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. And the power of the unknown is really important because I like being ambiguous. Like, a lot of people meet me, like for example, you can look at my Instagram photos and it'll be like, oh, so you'll get a different picture. That's just like one photo. But when you meet me in person, people have always told me your photos don't describe who you really are. Like, you're a lot more nicer, and your photos you look a lot more mean, and you look a lot more rude. But I'm just like, yeah, I think the biggest misconception people think that I'm rude, but which is really not true. How about you? What do people think about you when they don't meet you?
I guess, to be honest, the first misconception that I had, eventually that was true, but I was so in denial, was my lack of urgency. That's something that really used to make me angry, especially when I was like 20 or 21. And the funny thing is, the person that told me when we had this conversation, his characteristics were at the time worse than myself. So I was like, who are you to tell me that I have lack of urgency? Meanwhile, you have X, Y, and Z as far as issues and stuff, right? But I'll never forget, I got home, I sat down and relaxed, and I'm like, you know what? If he's saying this to me, I'm pretty sure other people probably feel the same way. So I started writing, and I think the next few days or so, I started asking people about things they like, that I do good, and also things they think I should improve upon. And some of the feedback as far as things I should improve upon is my lack of urgency. And even that's something till this today, like that's something that I still have to work on, right? And at the time, I'm like, you know what? Like, if this is something that's considered a bad thing, let me figure out what I can do, the necessary steps to, project it into something that's positive. That's something that I could use as a skill to get anything I want, any task, any assignment done in a matter of time, and still have that clarity and persistence, and that whole positive notion that makes someone who they are. And that was really tough at the beginning as far as lack of urgency, because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, but my friend broke it down. He's like, hey man, your patience is so amazing to the point where it deters you from actually moving at all. And you have to figure out a way to separate the two So when a measure calls for you to be urgent, to not use your patience to override that situation where you don't move and you're more at a standstill, as opposed to figuring out actions and steps necessary to get the task done. And that's something that takes time because it's like, okay, I have to figure this out in real time. I actually have to act out the scenarios and then talk to myself and realize, like, oh, is this patience or is this lack of urgency? And how do I maneuver between the two? And as you start to figure it out and as you start to progress, you're actually realizing that you are making the clear efforts, you are making the clear conscious ideas and steps towards progression and actually achieving what you want to be done overall. So I was super happy about that.
Yeah, Paige. Like I think being honest with yourself is the most important key because sometimes people could see certain things that you necessarily don't see. And a lot of the time, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow because it'd be like, is this really me? Because then it kind of makes you question your life, right? So at that particular moment, so when that person told you that to you, did you start questioning your own life and your own decisions that you were making going forward?
It wasn't that I was questioning my life. I was just like, when the person told me that, I'm like, that means everything, there's more faults. That's, I don't know. I think for me, I always want to make sure that I'm on top of who I am, my characteristics, my perfections, my imperfections. So as far as the imperfections, it couldn't be noticed or seen as much. So when he told me that, something so obvious, I'm like, clearly there's more things that I don't do as well that people aren't telling me. So I need to find out what those things are so I can minimize it, obviously, because that just annoyed me. As a guy as ambitious as myself, who has goals, visions, and big dreams and stuff, I can't allow that to happen. Like, I need to fix this thing before it hinders me from becoming great, which is something I've always wanted to do at the time, right? So it wasn't me questioning my life. It was me just questioning myself as far as what I'm doing and how to refix it so I can become a better version of myself.
So obviously, the topic is what you don't go through makes you stronger. Now, there's a lot of things that our friends go that have went through, people that we know that have went through, that made them stronger. But do you think that same thing that they went through, had you went through it, do you think it would have killed you, made you addicted, or would you have come out a different person? What are your thoughts on that?
Good question. Everyone's different as far as what they go through, how they handle situations. So references, it could be a personal issue, family issue, a relationship issue. Um, for myself, knowing who I am and how I handle things, I'm very reserved, very patient. I don't like to act out of. I don't like to act just based out of acting for no reason. I want to make sure whatever I say, the decision I make, it's clear, it has benefits to it. It makes me and the other person come out of it resolved. Conflict resolution. That's the whole point. It's all about conflict resolution. So yes, some of our friends have gone through things that are very troubling, very effective, like all of us. And I think for them, instead of taking that time to sit down, analyze what to do as far as themselves, they just neglected that and looked at the other person for blame, looked at the other people for help, and try to get answers out of something that they should have done themselves or taken account for themselves or taken initiatives for themselves. But because they're probably being selfish in that moment, made the situation worse. And eventually, I've gone through similar things. And I'm happy to know, even those similar situations, I took the time, thought about it, comprehended, analyzed, relaxed, reflected. And when it was time for me to actually make a decision, it was in the best manner for both people or more people involved. Because you think that acting irrational is nothing, but you don't know how it's going to affect someone 5 years from now. Because you may never see the person again. But when you hear stories about what happened to so and so, you don't know. It could all stem from that one conversation, that one dilemma where you just didn't take accountability because you didn't think you had to. That's how easy it is. Because the whole line, everything I'm not made me everything I am. If you know you're not rude, if you know you're not a troublemaker, if you know you're not someone that's a manipulator or whatever, devious, if you know that and you're doing the right things to eliminate those misconceptions, what you become is something greater than what people cast you for. But if you're not taking those time or those steps and efforts to eliminate that, and more people are casting you as something that you are not, it's gonna hurt you long term, always.
You know, it's interesting because sometimes in life, your situation will keep repeating itself if you don't change it. And I think that it's really important to learn from others. So when we say what you don't go through makes you who you are, it's also important. Yes, also going through certain things makes you who you are, but the critical things and the most things that can be detrimental to you is really important if you don't go through it. Like sometimes there's always the saying like back when we were kids, if your friend jumps off a cliff, would you jump off too? You know. So I think in the same sense, um, being able to learn from other people, and this is what I love about you, bro. I'm also the C person, but I want to say it again, like on air. If you know Muhammad really well, you know the one thing he does is just he loves to listen to people. He loves to observe them, and he loves to inquire about them, ask questions, and he always talks last. He's not gonna. He needs to know who the type of person you are, because I think you're so when you're always observing people. Like you're either observing or you're oblivious. You're either like one of those two. But Muhammad's in the observing realm where he observes the person. He's like, is this person good for me? So this person's not good for me. I'm gonna learn from him why I should not be doing this. You're really good at that. I think that's really important. And that's what I commend about you because in the beginning I wouldn't observe a lot of people. Since not until I met you, I started observing. I'm a lot more quiet now in certain situations, not because I want to, because I'm observing certain situations. For a lot of you that don't know, again, like when I first like reconciled with Muhammad like a couple of years ago, I had to be reintroduced to a whole different person. He's not the same person I met years ago. Similar to a lot of people now, I'm seeing that with people in my life who I've known for a long period of time. They're not the same people no more, which basically means that I am growing. Some of them are staying the same. So again, you know, we all love to like hate on Kanye West, shit like that, but that whole line, what you don't go through, you do not have to go through something to learn because then it could be too late. That's the way I look at it. It could be too late. It could be detrimental. And then now people are going to be at your funeral and be like, ah, man, what a good kid. Sorry for his loss, but they're gone. Or what a good kid. He lost his arm or what a good kid. Again, the list can go on. Ask yourself a question. How many more lifelines do you need before you wake up? You know? Things are happening around the world as a lesson to
Yeah,
us.
of course. And for me, I think, thank you for the praise,
You're welcome.
but it came. I had to make that change because another misconception that I had for a very long time. Thank God I don't hear it now, but at the time when I was younger, was that I was considered a Mr. Know-it-all. So the way I came off was like I knew everything, and like whatever topic, I was like the first person to give you an answer about it, and the whole history and all that stuff and everything. And now when I look back at the time, I love history. I love studying history. So when someone brings up something that I know about, it makes me excited. So I felt free or the urge just to give some background information or be like, oh, that's dope, relates to this and that and the third and all that stuff. But you don't know how much doing that thing, especially if you're with people all the time, it could come off annoying, it could come off selfish, it could come off as a, just like a Mr. Know-it-all. And that's one thing I had to really take in and reflect, because at that same time I was asking about my flaws. The first one was the lack of urgency, and the second one was coming off as a Mr. Encyclopedia. And I'm like, wow, that's okay. So I have to, number one, be careful what I say. And even if I want to jump into something, am I jumping into something that has nothing to do with me? Because I realize even in conversations as between two other people, nothing to do with me. If I heard something about like something in 1984 or about, I don't know, music or movies and stuff, hey, I know about that. Let me jump in. But those people are having conversations. They might be best friends or whoever, whatever it is. It has nothing to do with me. I can't just like barge in and be like, hey guys, like whatever. Like there's a certain way of conducting yourself in private and public manners and stuff, right? And that's something I had to reflect, reconfigure, and going forward, I'm gonna make sure that myself not interrupting or barging or acting like I'm imposing or coming off as if I have every answer for every situation was a bad quality of myself. I didn't want that. So, like you said, quiet, last to speak. I'm not going to speak first. I'm not going to speak in the middle. I'm going to speak towards the end. If I speak towards the end and I feel like I know something, I will give my answer. But until then, I'll let everyone go and speak first because I don't want anyone to feel as if I talk, they don't want to talk. Because who knows, that could potentially lead to someone's like, insecurities. If I talk, no
Hmm.
one else is going to talk. I don't want anyone to feel insecure around me. God forbid. So if I did that at the age of, 19, 20, 21, I don't want to be doing that now. That's not worth it. So let me go last as far as speaking. And if I do speak, let me just give what's necessary, nothing extra. Only thing I give extra are for those looking for the extra information or looking for a fun conversation. But besides that, I don't need to come off and show as if I have this whole book behind me about this certain topic. It's not worth it. I don't know anything. That's why I love learning because I don't know anything and I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. We're gonna keep saying that I don't know anything. Um, so I'm happy that's something I was able to fix on going forward because knowing that you don't know anything pushes you even more to even learn more and gain more knowledge. So that's something I definitely had to work on. So that was another flaw, coming off as a know-it-all. What about you?
I think another flaw for me, one flaw for me that I think took a long time is my patience, and that's one thing I had to work on, specifically when it came to ways, because in my mind I had this creative, I have a creative mind, I would say, amongst a lot of people that I know, but I was just like really impatient. I always want things now and now and now, and obviously in my head I'm like, I'm doing my part. Where's this part happening? But a lot of the times, even as being as a Muslim, I forgot the one important rule is patience. Like you're asked to be patient, and no matter your easy times or your even your hard times. That's one flaw, which it took me a long time, and it's still like I would say I'm a lot more patient now than I once was when people like I guess as far back as like 2017, because at that point I was like, again, you're still learning, and the reason you want to meet new people is to learn and elevate yourself. And I think you've helped me with that in terms of being a lot more patient. I would say that's one flaw which I had. And again, if you can ask anybody, bro, like sometimes I'm just sometimes and sometimes it creeps up too. It's like it's just like if in here I need to do something, which also for a while it stopped me. This is also one thing that people don't understand about patience is when your lack of patience can also hurt others and how they feel. Like sometimes, for example, people might be like talking to you, like giving out their heart, but all you're thinking about is you just want to go do the next thing. So now, no matter how urgent my thing is, I will give someone the benefit of the doubt, patient, and then I'll go. If I have to eat, if I have to go do something else, patience is really important. I think that's one flaw. To share a second flaw of mine, my ego, which thank God it died. Because it probably took a while to die. Like even after high school, there was still a bit of an ego of mine. Like I did not like being disrespected or cut off. But I realized, or even I would say, even closer to like the waist time, I still had an ego, and that's probably like as to and it was more of a humbling experience for me because in my head I'm like, how am I portray? Like I cannot be portraying one thing and talking about one thing when I'm like doing that. So I had like a lot of people like I was changing a lot during ways, and I'm thankful for that.
So I guess if you're listening to this, you heard some of our flaws, you heard some of our mistakes, you heard some of our bad influences, and how it could actually project onto others and make people feel such a bad, negative way, especially your loved ones and your friends. And obviously, never gonna say it to you because why would they? They would only say it to you if it became too annoying, too obvious. So one thing we can do as people in society is try to reflect what are your good characteristics, what are your bad characteristics. Try to figure it out. If you don't know the answers, go to your friends, go to your loved ones, and try to get necessary feedback from them. And if you find a common theme amongst both sides, guess what? Everything that's good, continue to do it. Try to maximize it. Everything that's bad, try to minimize it to eliminating it. Because if you do that, it only makes you grow. It allows you to see things in a better light and makes you more conscientious of every decision as well as every flaw and how it could hurt yourself and others around you. And obviously, it just makes the world a better place because we need more people being more aware of the things they do and how they do it. And I think if we do that, yeah, we are able to create a place that's better, more understanding, empathetic, less judgmental, based on wrong assumptions, obviously. And that's it. So you heard some of our flaws, and that's something we're working on. I'm pretty sure if I did another survey, um, maybe both of the things I mentioned might appear, or maybe one. But guess what? If it appears less, that means I am doing a better job at working at those things. And same thing for Osama. If one out of the three, two out of the three, or three out of the three things he mentioned appears, but to a lesser extent, that means he's working on it as well. He's made some progress. And remember, life is a long term, it's a long term game. At the same time, life is short. It all depends on how you see it. But the point is, make the start now. You just have to make the start now.
You guys thought we were done? I don't think so. We still gotta wrap it up. Please follow me at Kusa300. Follow my co-host Mohammed at Mohammed.global. Make sure to follow our page at Instagram. Also, make sure to subscribe to all our platforms. We drop every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Thank you. We'll see you next week.